ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. O Ramakrishna, the establisher of the eternal religion, the embodiment of all religions, and the best of all incarnations, we salute thee. The last reading class, we stopped halfway of para 8 of page 307. Today, we shall continue the reading from the same page, that is, page 307, from half para. It is only from this point of view that the teachers of devotion have ascertained the various differences between the five moods and have assigned the highest place to the Madhura Bhava. Otherwise, each one of them is, as those teachers have unanimously admitted, capable of making the aspirant realize God. So these five bhavas, they're equally good. So, but the teachers of these bhavas, the Vaishnava teachers, they assign the highest place to Madhura Bhava. There are one or two criteria for that one, which he is discussing. The devotional scriptures and the life of Sri Ramakrishna teach us that with the help of each one of these modes, man can ultimately realize the non-dual reality. It is known from the study of the history of religions that with the ultimate development of each of these five moods, the aspirant forgets himself and feels happy when his beloved is happy. In all the five moods, the lovers, their attitude to one another is to see the other one is happy. One does not concern about one's happiness. He worry only about the other's happiness. In all the five moods, it is there. Absorbed in thought of him during the time of separation from him, he sometimes loses even the consciousness of his own existence. From the study of devotional books like the Bhagavata, it is seen that not only did the gopis of Braja, that is Vrindavan, forget in this way their own existence, but actually felt on occasions identified with their beloved Krishna. It is in their Ras Leela, when Krishna disappears, then they go on crying. In their wonderful crying moods, they sing, they talk about their own state. So they became one with Krishna. They lost all consciousness of their own body. So all the description comes. Gopika Gita. It is well known from the devotional books of the Christians also that absorbed in the thought of the passion of Christ, some mystics bore the stigmata and bled from those marks on their bodies. While life of Saint Francis of Assisi and of Saint Catherine of Siena. Saint Francis of Assisi is well known. He is called the second Christ. He was in the 12th century. So Saint Francis of Assisi is called the second Christ. So much was he absorbed in Christ. So he developed the stigmata, the marks of blood on the body of Jesus Christ when he was crucified. Those marks appeared on the Saint Francis because of deep identification with Jesus. So that is being mentioned here. Therefore, we find that with the final development of each one of these five moods, Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhura, these are the five moods. The aspirant becomes absorbed in the thought of his or her object of love and united and identified with it under the strong impulse of love. Realizing the non-dual state of consciousness. Sri Ramakrishna's unique life of spiritual striving has shown wonderful light, has thrown wonderful light on this matter. He practiced each of the five spiritual loving moods, and in each of them he became merged in the object of his love, and absolutely forgetting his own existence, realized the non-dual reality. How, it may be asked, can the human mind experience, with the help of these moods, the reality of non-duality, which is beyond all moods? For no mood can ever rise, exist, or develop the human mind without the consciousness of two persons. That means the during the practice of the spiritual austerity, we are assuming duality. There is a lover and there is a beloved. So when duality we are starting, how can you land in Advaita, in non-duality? That is the question which he is going to answer. The objection and answer. Quite true. But the more a mood develops, the more it does spread its own influence and remove gradually from the aspirant's mind all contrary ideas. Again, when it is fully developed, the concentrated mind of the aspirant sometimes in meditation forgets I and thou and the relation between them and remains perfectly identified through love with the reality denoted by the word thou. So the aspirant and the object meditated upon, that is God, God and his devotee, during the deep meditation they become one. Simultaneously conscious, simultaneously say it is not the human mind the eminent teachers of India say. He is not simultaneously conscious of I and thou and the loving relation between them. It knows the entity denoted by the word thou, that is God, one moment, and the denoted by the word I, the aspirant, the jiva, next moment. And because the mind oscillates quickly between the ideas of these two entities, there develops an idea of a relation between them. It then seems to be simultaneously conscious of those two entities and the relation between them. But when the restlessness of the mind is destroyed by the influence of the matured mood of love, it gradually becomes able to detect what has been said above. The more the function of the mind is stilled at the time of meditation, the more does it understand by degrees that it saw the one not dual reality from two angles of vision and mistook it for two independent entities. It's a highly psychological fact. He's telling what happens during the deep meditation of a spiritual person. So though they are two, they 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 see one. They have forgotten themselves. Only the Ishtar, the beloved, only see. So what is the psychology behind it? The author is explaining. One is simply amazed to think what a vast period of time and what superhuman efforts of numberless aspirants were necessary for the full development of each of the moves through which the human mind was enabled to realize the non-dual reality. When we study the history of religions as embodied in the scriptures, it becomes clear that a particular mood became the principal prop of human minds during meditation in a particular age. So certain moods are there fit for a certain age. Means if there is the age of bhakti, then everyone feels like meditating on dual God and the aspirant, the devotee and the deity. So everybody is after this bhakti cult, which which teaches you duality. It was for an age then. The bhakti is the main mood that is acceptable to all the people, and it is easy to follow. And with the help of it, many eminent aspirants of that knowledge of the non-dual reality of Brahman. Now, yet realize God, and a rare few gain the immediate knowledge of the non-duality of Brahman. So, when at that particular age, majority of the people realize God, but the non-dual experience of God came to a few people also. All deities, they don't want non-dual experience, as the common utterance says. The devotee wants to taste sugar. He doesn't want to become sugar. To become sugar is to taste non-dual experience. To taste sugar is to be a bhakta and have Bhagavan in front of you as your beloved. So most of the devotees would like to taste sugar, not become sugar by themselves. We meet the final development of the Shanta mood, the mood of the rishis, mainly in the Vedic and Buddhistic ages. So the author is giving you the ages when different moods were prevalent and accepted. Other moods were lying in hibernation. They were not very prominent. With the non-dual mood as the ultimate development of the Shanta, and also the moods of Dasya and the Apatya. Apatya is the attitude of a child towards God in the Upanishadic age. So, from the Vedic age to the Upanishadic age, there is a change. With the moods of the Shanta and Dasya mixed with motiveless action, the epic age, Puranas. In the Puranas, there is a mixing of motiveless action, that's Karma Yoga, with devotion, with bhakti also. Karma and bhakti are mixed in the mythological age, that is the age of Purana, with the apatya and the partial madhura, the tantric age, the child and mother. So almost all the tantric saints, they have taught themselves the children of divine mother. So they have gone crying to the mother. This is apatya. And madhura also is the heroic mode. They consider as the beloved of the God. God is considered as the wife, and themselves they consider as Purusha. And with the moods of the Sakya, the Vatsalya, and the Madhura, the Vaishnava age. So when the Vaishnava age succeeded, the epic age, the Purana age, then Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhura were mixed up, and this was practiced. So the author justifies that one particular mood was good for a particular age. The age may be 200 years or 250, 300 years, just as we say, age of Ramakrishna, age of Shankara. During Shankara's age, it was Advaiti mood. Everywhere people wanted Advaita. They want to excel in the knowledge of Advaita. So Advaitists were maximum among the scholars, among the saints also. But after almost 4 centuries of Shankara comes Ramanujan, after 3 centuries of Shankara, then all the countries reverberating with Bhakti school. So wherever Ramanuja goes, he preaches Bhakti. And saints and seers, the writers and scholars, all were imbibed with the spirit of the devotional aspect. So this is the age of Ramanuja, we say. Age of Shankara, like that. Age of Puranas and age of the Tantra. While the full man is painted all these five moods together with the non-dual mood is thus found in the history of the religions of India. Manifestations of the Shanta, Dasya, and Apatya only are found in the religious communities of other countries. That means among Christianity, among the Muslims, and Judaism. So there, these Shanta, Dasya, and Apatya, these are the moods that are seen. The other moods of Madhura, are not seen there. Though the songs of King Solomon, the royal sage, expressing the friendly and sweet moods in relation to God, are intact in the Jewish, Christian, and Muslim communities. The members of these communities are unable to understand the import of those songs and attribute a different meaning to them. They cannot understand the inner meaning, deeper spiritual meaning of the songs of Solomon. The moods of Satya and Madhura are, it goes without saying, extend to a great extent the Sufi community professing Islam. Yet the generality of the Muslims regard such worship of God as contrary to the perception of Quran. Again, though the worship of the Mother of the Universe in the image of Mary, the Mother of Christ, is extant, it is prevalent in an obscure form, not very clear in the Catholic Christian community. It is not directly connected with the idea of God as Mother. It is God Mother. So, worship of Mary is God Mother's, Mother of God, not God as Mother. It has therefore not been as fruitful as the worship of the Universal Mother extant in India and has not enabled the aspirant to realize the individual existent knowledge bliss absolute and to experience the divine manifestation in all women without exception. So the worship of Mary should have culminated in considering all women as divine, as Sri Ramakrishna taught. I consider all women as mother, divine mother. So because he worshipped God as mother and he saw him as mother of all. So when mother of all is worshipped, naturally all children of mother inherit the qualities of the mother. All the children, especially the women children, they inherit, imbibe the qualities of the mother. It is God. So divinity in the form of a female form is every woman. Every woman is considered as a representative of the Divine Mother. That is the experience of the Indian saints and serials, which you do not see in the other countries because they have not gone so deep into the worship of Mother as God, God as Mother. Absolute and to experience the divine manifestation in all women without exception. The current of the idea of the motherhood of God has disappeared midway like the river flow. So they must have also started with the worship of Mary. She is the mother of Jesus. That means mother of everyone. Jesus, if he is God, then so it is God's creation. His whole creation is in God. So mother of God means mother of the whole creation. So God the mother is the idea, but that was not developed much. So it disappeared like the river Falgu in India. The river Falgu is has disappeared. It's under the sands. You cannot see it outside. What indicates the depth of the aspirant's mood? That is being discussed. When the mind of the aspirant is attracted to God with the aid of some living mood, loving mood, it becomes, as we have said before, gradually absorbed in it, turns away from the external world and merges itself in the self. At the time of the mind's merging, its past impressions stand in its way and try to make it swim on the surface, pushing it upwards again and again. That is what we call as obstacles to meditation. We want to go dive deep, but we are unable to go deep. Something or other pushes us up. For example, we are going deeply thinking about God, God, God. Suddenly, the idea of the world comes. worldly relationships come, and worldly troubles and tribulations will come, and the mind is unable to go towards God. Where were these troubles that arose? They were all in the form of impressions. Impressions were created during our work, during our active life, the past, either in this life or in other lives, in the previous bodies, yeah, when we were in the other incarnations. Therefore, ordinary human minds with powerful past impressions cannot generally become absorbed even in one move, even by a whole life's effort. Because whenever you want to get absorbed, the past impressions come and disturb you and take you away from absorption. So when you don't get absorbed in the particular mood, you cannot get identified with the deity which you are meditating upon. So the direct experience of God is not possible. When that happens, they at first become discouraged and give up the effort, and at last, losing faith in the object to be attained, come to consider the enjoyment of sights, tastes, etc., of the external world to be the only thing worth having, and pursue it again. People whom we call as slipping away from the spiritual life, they become very enthusiastic in enjoying the sense pleasures. That is the tragedy. So he was going in a different direction. Because he slipped away from there, he started falling down in the opposite direction. That's what happened. When you're going up, if someone was that they pull upwards, fails, or fails to hold us going and take us up, we slip from there. Naturally, we don't go up in the same direction. We go in the opposite direction, we come down, down and down we go. Similarly, an aspirant who falls from a spiritual life, he will not be staying there. He goes on falling down and down and down. So too in the opposite direction. He increases in his worldliness. So much he was advanced in spiritual life. After some time you'll find he has become absolutely worldly person. It is because he did not get the taste of the higher spiritual life. Aversion for outward things, absorption in the meditation of the object of love, and the ecstasy produced by one's spiritual move are therefore regarded in the sphere of the devotional sadhana as the measure of the aspirant's progress towards the goal. So, this aversion, the vairagya, is the measure, and the extent of absorption in the deity, the inner object of worship, the intensity of that one. These mark the state of the spiritual sadhana. At what level are we? So if we have to judge by how much of vairagya we have, how much of detachment, aversion to the sense objection, sense enjoyment, and how much we get absorbed into the mood of meditation on our Ishtadevata. If these two are measured, then we can say he is progressing or deteriorating. Measure the aspirant's progress towards the goal or otherwise. One who has not made an attempt to be absorbed in one of the moods and has not therein met with strong obstacles due to past impressions hidden in the mind, will not at all understand the inward struggle in the aspirant's mind. It is an inner struggle. Nobody can see outside. Outside, one is sitting and he is but fighting inside with his own samskaras which are dragging him down and his desire to go higher and higher towards the object of worship. So there's a fight going on. But from outside, you can't see any fight. He's sitting like that just. because they won't fight at a mental level. He alone who has done it will know what sufferings have to be undergone before that merging in spiritual love takes place. And only he will be astonished. He will be astonished to see Sri Ramakrishna attaining in a short time an extraordinary merging in all the devotional moods, one after another, and feel that it is not possible for mere human power to attain such a state. That means, unless one is a sadhaka himself, one cannot understand the greatness of the saints, and much less the greatness of an incarnation like Sri Ramakrishna. Their struggle, how much struggle they should have done, one can understand only if we have struggled hard. Suppose I have struggled hard to get a postgraduate degree or a doctorate, spending 20 years. I have seen people spending 20 years to get a doctorate. I have seen also people who have got the doctorate after they have retired during their service, when they were 20 years in service, and another 13, 14 years from that time itself they are attempting a doctorate. So after retirement they get the doctorate. When he sees that there are some geniuses who finish the doctorate in 2.5 years, the shortest time I have seen myself, in 2.5 years, one brilliant person got a doctorate in economics. Everybody called him a very intelligent person. And I heard later on another person had done it much shorter. So, but this all they can only appreciate those that have struggled for 30 years to get a doctorate. They will immediately wonder when they hear so and so has done it in 2.5 years. That is how those sadhakas, those aspirants who struggled hard in practical life to attain something, and they see or read or hear about the incarnations like Sri Ramakrishna, they are wonderstruck. And they alone can understand what a tremendous power in the form of yearning, in the power of detachment, vairagya, or in the power of concentration they should have been. So they only can understand the glory of such incarnations. A discussion on the lack of records. Is it because the ordinary human mind was not able to understand the subtle truths of spiritual realm that the history of the practices of the spiritual heroes who are known as the incarnations of God has not been adequately recorded? Why do people appreciate such great people's struggle? Perhaps they have never heard about it. If you had heard at least of some people doing great penances, undergoing great austerities to attain a particular object, we can compare them with that. Because somebody attains at a shorter period the same goal, then we say this man is greater than him because he has taken 10 years for that. This person has taken only 5 years. But the goal is the same. So this person is greater than them. So we can compare and get some idea of the different achievements in spiritual life or achievement different persons. Place them in different levels. But there is no record at all of anyone. We have not seen. And at least if records were there, we could compare. If records are also not there, how can you say the greatness of some person? There is nothing to compare at all. Therefore, the author is asking the question, is it because their, their case has not been recorded properly? For a detailed discussion on the detachment from and the renunciation of the world at the time of their undertaking discipline and the wonderful power manifested through them after their success in it for the good of the human minds, which are deluded by worldly objects, are the only things found in that history. We find given there only a slight indication of the extraordinary inward struggle in which they were engaged during the period of the striving for the purpose of destroying and uprooting the deep impressions in their mind and securing mastery over themselves. So these people have struggled hard with tremendous determination, one pointedness of their mind, and tremendous willpower. So this can be, it is not recorded anywhere. Therefore, by superficially reading some of the incidents in their life, one cannot understand their intensity or the difficulty of the sadhanas, the spiritual practices the great people have practiced. Or that struggle has been described in that history with the help of metaphors and hyperboles in such a way that it has become quite impossible for us to find out the grain of truth in that description. So in some places, instead of recording the history as it is, the incident as it is, they have added so much of metaphors and exaggerated it to place. Or somewhere they have they have make it a very short summary like thing. So either it is exaggerated or it is condensed. With the result, we do not know the full truth. So whether it is exaggerating or is condensing it into something which both it is away from both. The truth is truth as it is. It cannot be condensed into something small, or it cannot be made big by exaggeration. But most of the scriptures describing the spiritual aspirant struggle, either they exaggerate it or they make it into short summaries. So we don't get a real picture of the struggle. The reader will understand what we mean when we give a few examples. Now the author is going to tell us a few examples. The statement is applicable equally to Krishna. See, Krishna was engaged on many occasions in performing austerities with a view to acquiring particular powers for the purpose of doing good to humanity. But no description of the succession of the moods of his mind is found except that he remained for some time standing on one leg, living on water or air. So one sentence is done. He was there for years, standing in water, he was what? Standing on one leg. So what do you understand by that? What was the type of, at the time, what food did he take? How many days or weeks or months he took like that? Who were there able to help? And he refused their help. Nothing is, no details are available. We do not get so detailed account of Buddha's striving as of his detachment from the world, his leaving home for the purpose of becoming an anchorite, a monk, and afterwards his establishing Dharma Chakra, the wheel of religion. We don't get very much details. We only get the details that Siddhartha left his house on one fine night. On the morning of that, he had gone out to see the town or the capital city, found miserable scenes of human life, a sick man, an old man, and a dead man. So when he saw this, he got detachment to life. He left his family, friends, and went here to become a monk. This is all the record we get. But what about the struggles he underwent? How many people he must have gone to get guidance? They must have guided him. How long did he practice each one's guidance? No details are available. But a little of the history of spiritual moods is available, unlike in the instance of other spiritual heroes. He is a little better. His case is a little better than the case of other heroes, whose no description is given about whose adventures in spiritual life. It is recorded that abstaining from food and drink in the case of Buddha, and having the firm resolve to succeed. He was engaged in practicing austerity and meditation for 6 long years without leaving his seat. So only this description is there. And controlling the internal vital forces, the pranas, and practicing the meditation, he entered into the samadhi. But while recording his struggle during this period with the past impressions hidden in his mind, his biographer has, with the help of gross external events, introduced the story of his fight against Mara. Mara is the Buddhist Saturn. Saturn is called Mara. In Hinduism, it is called Kama. So Kama, Mara, Saturn. So all these are the name for that evil force that tempts you away in your spiritual life. So in Buddha's life, the there is a description in the Buddha Charita by Ashwagosha that the heavenly maidens came with their beauty and then danced around him to just divert his mind from meditation, but he was not diverted. Then, some devils, ghosts, and goblins came, tried to threaten him. He had that also was not disturbed. So these are also the external events. What happened inside his mind, nothing, no description is available. The, when the same thing is applicable to Jesus also. The history of the striving of Jesus is also not available. After recording a few events of Jesus' life till he was 12 years, his biographer has described how in his 30th year Jesus was baptized by John the Baptist, a perfect holy man, and he entered alone a lonely desert where he practiced austerity and meditation for 40 days. How, though tempted by Satan, he came out victorious and returned from there, and how at last he engaged himself in doing good to humanity. These are the scanty details that are available. From 12th year to 40th year, no detail at all available. He did not keep quiet. He's a spiritual man. At 12th year, he was a young boy. At 40th, he was a preacher. He was a prophet. So this has taken place gradually in his life through several years of struggle. What was those struggle? What was the nature? No way, no detail is available. He continued to be in the gross body for 3 years only after that. After he became a prophet, he remained only for 3 years to preach his gospel. There are therefore no records whatever of how he spent his time from the 12th to 30th year of his life. So almost 18 years of his life is blank. We do not know. So there are so many conjectures. There is one conjecture that Jesus came to India and stayed in Kashmir. So, and from there he acquired a lot of knowledge of yoga. And there is a picture also painted of Jesus by some famous painter sitting in the yoga posture of the Indian yogi. So all these things are attached to him, but there is no historical and credible history about his spiritual practices. Then this same criteria apply to Shankara also. Although a good deal of the sequence of events in Shankara's life is found, one has very often only to infer the history of the moods of his mind. What were the different moods he followed? Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, and Madhura. What mood did he follow? There is no mention. Many events of the sadhana of Chaitanya are found recorded. The story of his exalted love of God, devoid of the slightest tinge of desire, has been described in a way unintelligible to the ordinary mind, in the form of metaphors with the help of the stories of love between Radha and Krishna and their separation from each other. So Chaitanya had a lot of spiritual struggles and until he became a prophet, prophet of love, spiritual love. But what was this moods that he went through? That also there is no record. Whatever his struggle is mentioned in the metaphors and similes with Radha and Krishna, play of love. So common man cannot understand at all what was the depth of his feelings towards God, etc. And it has to be admitted that Chaitanya and his chief companions have recorded in some detail, though in metaphorical language, the changes that came upon mind of the aspirant from the inception to almost the ultimate perfected state of each of the spiritual moods of Satya, Vatsalya, and Madhura, with a special emphasis on Madhura. But they have not given out the ultimate truth that when the aspirant's mind becomes completely absorbed in any of the opposite three moods, it experiences oneness with the object of its love and merges in the non-dual reality. The unique life of Sri Ramakrishna, the extraordinary history of his sadhana have taught us that ultimate truth very clearly in the modern age and enabled us to understand that all the religious moods of all the religious communities of the world bring the mind of the aspirant to one and the same goal, leaving aside all the other things that may be learned from Sri Ramakrishna's life. It may be said here that the whole world is undoubtedly eternally indebted to Sri Ramakrishna for the wonderful width of spiritual vision, indicating the universality of religion that we have gained through his grace. So the author is just juxtaposing the facts, the facts that are available from so many past prophets are very meager, whereas the whole details of the spiritual aspirant, how we went through stage by stage from one mood to another, from Shanta to Dasya, Dasya to Satya, Satya to Vatsalya, Vatsalya to Madhura, how from one mood to another, one aspirant moves and he attains to the highest. And then when he comes to Madhura Bhava, the intensity of that mood you can clearly is shown in several of his practices undergoes and the tremendous struggles he does make and the troubles he undergoes all are recorded in the case of Sri Ramakrishna. And so the author says we are highly indebted to Sri Ramakrishna for giving all the details which we could not get from the previous 5 or 6 prophets. So he has given us all the dots that were there. Now we can fill in the dots and get a full history of all the 5 books. So we stop here. There is further discussion on this. We will take it up in our next class. Niranjanam Nityavanantarupam Bhaktanukampadrita Vigraham Ishavataram Parameshamidhyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namah. O Ramakrishna, the taintless one, the eternal one, the one with infinite forms, the one who has assumed a human form out of compassion to the devotees, the incarnate Supreme Soul, and the adorable Lord of all. We salute bow with our heads to thee. Oh, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.